Hi everyone, today we will be continuing reading this book called Koalas. A troubled history. Koalas have been important to the native or aboriginal people of Australia for the millennia that both have shared the continent. Aborigines once probably ate koala meat but did not regard it as a favorite food. Therefore, any koala hunting done by the Aborigines did not negatively affect the animal's overall population. When Europeans first settled in Australia in the late 18th century, they took note of the curious creature and hunted it in small numbers. The first recorded mention of a koala occurred in 1798, and the Europeans thought the animal was some type of bear or wombat. As more Europeans settled in Australia, they cleared eucalyptus forests to make way for homes, towns, and farms. Koalas started to move around more in order to find new habitats. Not until another century had passed, around 1880, did humans start hunting koalas in greater numbers. European settlers discovered that koala fur was very warm when made into clothing and blankets, and demand for the fur increased around the world. Hunting also found that koalas were easy to capture and kill because they were relatively slow and seemed to have no fear of humans. Koala hunting would continue unchecked for 50 years, pushing the animal to the brink of extinction. The koala fur trade grew rapidly. In 1 year, more than 2 million koala skins were shipped to Alaska alone. Koalas started to disappear from the Australian landscape, especially in parts of southern Australia. In northern states, their numbers plummeted to just a few hundred. Overall, by the early 20th century, there were only a few thousand koalas left, where at one time there had been millions. By the 1920s, Australians finally realized these animals could be extinct in a few years if hunting was left unchecked, and many begged the government to outlaw the hunting of their beloved animals. This type of public outpouring of support for an animal had never before been seen in Australia. Before, from all types of organizations, community groups, churches, schools, businesses, and women's clubs joined together in protest. The public persuaded the government to pass laws against koala hunting, but these laws were not always enforced, and the government often gave in to pressure from fur hunters. But in 1927, future United States President Herbert Hoover, as U.S. Secretary of Commerce, signed an order that prohibited the importation of koala skins to the U.S. Hoover had worked for a time in the gold mines of Australia, so he knew how important the animals were to Australians. The Australian government declared koalas as a protected species in the 1930s. Still, there were isolated incidents of koala hunting by poachers. Also, the government did not protect the koala's food source, the eucalyptus tree. Even today, trees are routinely cut down as the land is cleared, leaving koalas in danger of starvation. There are about 100,000 koalas in Australia today, numbers still far below their pre-hunting population. The status of the koala ranges from common to rare depending on the geographic region of Australia. For example, in the state of Queensland, the koala is considered to be common, except in the southeast portion of the state, where it is listed as vulnerable. In South Australia, where the koala was reintroduced in the 1920s after the fur trade had completely wiped out the original population, it is now considered rare. Until 1980, the Australian government banned exportation of live koalas. The only place in the world that people could see koalas outside Australia was the San Diego Zoo, which has housed koalas since 1915. The San Diego Zoo was the only zoo that had figured out how to successfully keep koalas in captivity. A koala requires a particular habitat with carefully regulated temperatures to stay comfortable. Most importantly, zoos that have koalas need to grow many eucalyptus trees in order to satisfy a koala appetite. With improved technology and greater knowledge, koalas are today found in zoos around the world. Because of its cuddly appearance, the koala quickly grew popular with children and adults in Australia and throughout the world in the 1900s. When Australians protested koala hunting in the 1920s, many images emerged that compared koalas to children or showed them as being part of the family. Indeed, koalas can wrap their arms and legs around people and give hugs, and they can also cry like human babies when injured. The cute images of koalas easily transfer to cartoons. One of the first cartoon koalas to appear was Bunyip Bluegum, drawn by famous Australian artist Norman Lindsay in the 1918 classic children's tale, The Magic Pudding. In 1933, another cartoon koala, Dorothy Wall's Blinky Bill, appeared on the scene. Both Bunyip Bluegum and Blinky Bill helped endear the koala to Australians. Soon, koala cartoons would be found in all parts of the world. Adventures of the Little Koala was a cartoon that first aired in Japan in 1987, but later found a home on the Nickelodeon television network in the U.S. Today, children in Australia and the U.S. can watch the Koala Brothers, an animated show that takes place in the outback. The Koala Brothers, Frank and Buster, have many friends and fly around the country in a little two-seater plane. Perhaps the best-known koala icon is Teddy, the spokes koala for the Australian airline Qantas. Teddy, a koala from the San Diego Zoo, began starring in Qantas commercials in 1967. In the advertisements, Teddy appeared grumpy because Qantas was able to fly people quickly and cheaply to Australia, and Teddy would have preferred to have the continent all to himself. The commercials made it appear that Teddy was talking and making gestures, which gave him a human-like appearance to which people could relate. Because the animals are found only in Australia, koalas became a symbol of everything Australian, representing the common man and the tough spirits of Australians. Along with the kangaroo, Australians have adopted the koala as a national symbol, much like the U.S. has the bald eagle. Bouncing back, scientists still have much They want to learn about koalas' habitats and diets. Today, the bear-like animals are popular not only in Australia but around the world. Many organizations and individuals are dedicated to learning more about koalas in order to protect them and help their numbers increase. More than 45 million years ago, the continents of South America, Antarctica, and Australia were joined together. Scientists believe an early form of koala traveled from South America across Antarctica and settled in Australia. About 40 million years ago, koalas and wombats are believed to have branched off from a common ancestor. Fossils of koalas have been found in western and southern Australia, places where koalas do not live today. But back then, koalas was likely composed of widespread rainforests. Some koala fossils, estimated to be 40,000 years old, are twice the size of today's koalas. These large-bodied animals may have become extinct when the rainforests disappeared and new trees could no longer support their weight. A dozen different types of koalas may have existed throughout the ages, but now only one species remains. Today's koala is believed to have been around for 4 million years. Scientists and volunteers continue to study koalas today. Even school children help in activities such as koala counts to help researchers find out more about the animal. Each year, dozens of researchers and scientists, mostly from Australian universities, take on separate projects to learn more about the koala. Common studies conducted by scientists focus on the koala's diet, habitat and population. To track populations, scientists briefly capture koalas and put a band on their leg or tag on their ear that contains a tracking device. This way, researchers can count exact numbers and be alerted immediately if numbers start to go down. Scientists also use tape mating calls to attract koalas out into the open, where they can be counted more easily. To learn more about baby koalas, a recent study examined the pouches of koalas. A koala's pouch is sometimes dirty and lined with a crusty substance. But in studying female koalas during breeding season, researchers discovered the pouches contain a clear liquid. By examining the liquid, scientists learned that it contains antibacterial components that keep pouches germ-free and koala babies healthy. By studying eucalyptus trees, scientists can learn what makes certain ones toxic to koalas. Then, studying what the koalas eat and what they do not eat, researchers can determine what makes an ideal koala habitat and what their exact food requirements are. That information can be used when creating artificial koala habitats in zoos or when repairing old ones in the wild that have been destroyed by fire, drought, or deforestation. Today, the koala still faces many threats, both in nature and from humans. But when nature disasters strike, humans are often there to help. In early 2007, Australia faced one of its worst forest fires in years when huge swaths of trees in Framlingham Forest in the state of Victoria were destroyed. Rescuers searched the forests of koalas that were burned or starving. Many were nursed back to health and released into other forests. The fires destroyed many young eucalyptus trees that had just been planted, so it may take years before koalas can return to the region. In many parts of the world, humans encroach upon wildlife populations. More and more people like to live as close to nature as possible. But such places are home to animals that may be negatively affected by development. This is the case in Australia, where destruction of habitat remains the biggest threat to the koala. The koala itself is protected, but laws regarding a koala's habitat are not always strongly enforced. Eucalyptus forests are routinely cut down to make way for homes and businesses, or to clear land for agriculture or mining. On roads, an estimated 4,000 wild koalas are killed each year by vehicles. Drivers are asked to pay close attention to the road when driving through a forest where wild koalas live. There are a number of sanctuaries in which koalas can live safely. Lone Pine Sanctuary was created in Queensland in 1927, and koala hunting was outlawed across Australia soon after. Lone Pine was the first and largest koala sanctuary in the world. Thousands of tourists flock to the site each year, eagerly awaiting the chance to hold a koala. At the Koala Park Sanctuary in Disney, Australia's capital city, koalas roam through man-made forests that look just like real ones. Sometimes the koala can actually become a little too protected, and measures must be taken to keep its numbers in check. Otherwise, the population can explode so much that koalas may have difficulty finding enough food or places to live. In 2005, authorities sterilized more than 8,000 koalas on Kangaroo Island in an effort to keep the population under control. Koalas have been introduced to the island in the early 20th century, but without many predators or dangers, the large population could not sustain itself on the limited natural resources available. Sterilization therefore prevented starvation for this population. All of these efforts help ensure that the koala will be around for many more years. Australians have proven that they will not stand quietly by and watch their lovable national icon disappear, and people regularly join together in efforts to save the koala. Some even send money to the Australian Koala Foundation and become foster parents to koalas. Because an estimated 80% of koala habitat is on private land, people who live near forests are encouraged to plant eucalyptus trees. In Australia, the koala takes center stage in September, which is designated to save the koala month. The battle between saving koala habitats and human encroachment is not over, but people are determined not to repeat the mistakes of the past that nearly resulted in the koala's extinction. The more the world knows about the plight of the koala, the better the chance that this furry animal will continue to thrive as Australia's national symbol. Animal Tale: The Koala Boy. Once there was a boy in Australia who lived with an aunt and uncle because his own parents had died. His aunt and uncle treated him very poorly. Even when he cried out from thirst, they gave him barely enough water to survive. He sucked on eucalyptus leaves for their water instead. One day, the aunt and uncle left the boy alone, as they frequently did, to hunt in the dense forest. But unlike other times they had gone hunting, the time they forgot to hide the water containers. The boy greedily drank from one container and decided to hide the rest of the water high up in a tree to save for another day. He climbed a eucalyptus tree and started to sing. As he sang, the tree grew higher and higher. He was still hiding the branches when his aunt and uncle arrived home. They noticed their water and the boy were missing and started to search frantically. Look, the aunt finally said. The boy is high up in the tree, and he took all the water with him. They became very angry, but they could see that their loud voices frightened the boy. They decided to try to coax him down with sweet words. "Oh, little boy, please come down from the tree," they pleaded. "We promise not to hurt you. We promise to be kind to you from now on, and we'll give you all the water you want." The boy was skeptical, but finally he believed them. He scurried down the tree. Once he got to the ground, his aunt and uncle became angry. He realized that he had been tricked, and they beat him badly with sticks and rocks. But soon, a strange thing started to happen. The boy became shorter, stockier, and covered with gray fur. He became a koala. With his fast, powerful legs, he hurried back up the tree to his water vessels. The aunt and uncle shook the branches, and when that failed to bring the koala boy down, the uncle got an axe and started to chop down the tree. It worked, and the tree crashed to the ground. But when the tree fell, all the water in the containers also spilled. The water flowed away in the raging creek, but soon dried up. As for the koala boy, he disappeared and was never seen again. Since that time, the Aborigines have always been careful not to break a koala's bone nor skin it when they eat its meat. If they do so, they fear that once again all the water in the land will spill and dry up, leaving their crops to fail in the dry and barren countryside.